if you can see me there. And I'm going to put this on so I can see who's seeing me. I'm going to wait a few minutes, not a few minutes, but a little bit, just to see who is seeing this. So I don't know how I can see people that are on. Hi, Jacqueline. I just saw you on there. So be real nice to just text people or email Jacqueline, people that I'm on. It's going to be an important night. I need a little more light. Can you hear me? Well, I got my microphone over here. So I'll try and get that where we can see it a little better. And can you see me there, Wayne? Tell me if you can see me and hear me well, you guys. If this microphone's picking up. Let me get a little more light on me, okay? So just let me know if you're hearing it, seeing it good. Does that help with the light? Hey, Shanna, and thank you, Doreen. I had a good Thanksgiving. Yeah, I'm gonna be real honest. I have had some physical challenges, and there's something I'm gonna speak real direct to all of us and hope is very, very important tonight. So let me know. Yeah, Shanna, prophesied about the things that are happening now. Yeah, I think you got to see this time and see it in relationship to a hope that sees a very long ways out. Tell me if you can see me, if my shadows, move some lights out of here. And that one light's hitting me hard here. Hi, Christy. So thank you, Shanna. I'd love to see the notes, pray more for you. Light cast a shadow. Okay. Letitia, I will keep you in prayer. Oh, I'm sorry you're in the hospital with COVID. We're going to pray for you right now. A second here. This could be a real important night. So, I won't keep you guys on forever, but, there's been some real interesting things that have happened. So if you could share the word that I'm on, I called it a message to all the social mediums, because I want to bring them hope. They are, at this point, censoring me, and they're not allowing. I think that's better, I guess, without the light in the middle of my face, and you can hear me fine. So is that better? You guys see better? I think that's better. Okay. Simeon, good to see you. Yeah, I know. Simeon, I got to put the light in front of me. I will do that real quick, you guys, and I'll quit running around. Veronica, good to see you. Share the word. This is going to be an important night. Very important night. Okay. I'm going to move this light. I'm still here, and I'll be with you. Okay. Is that better? Yeah, that looks better. I think. Simeon, thank you. Thank you. That was all good advice. Okay. This time we're in is like an Isaiah 35 and 36 time. Hi, Tammy. And really important, and I'd like to get your feedback here on this. Thank you, Jacqueline. Much better. So, looks like I got powder on my face. I don't like looking like a pretty boy. I'm tough. Get some color in that face. Okay, I'm here. Brian, good to see you. Let me just share this. I just had the Brunsons here, and I call this a message to all the social medias, and I'm sharing them because it's just not right. Social media, what you're doing, it's not right. Mr. Zuckerberg, I appreciate you, but listen to my story before you censor me and you won't allow me to boost anything. I realized I shared a story on Thanksgiving, and all I said was that my friend Bob Jones and I he shared this story with me, and it was like a father. And it wasn't an exact right on the details. You fact checked it and said it was wrong, and you were right. Facebook on it was wrong on the details, but not on the essence of it. And it was about Francis Scott Keys and really the origination of the Star Spangled Banner. And it was wrong. It was not to be, the details of it were not what was important. It was the heart of it, and just that the nation stood in a time that was very difficult. And so even when Bob Jones shared that with me in a song of Kate Smith, God Bless America, the rhetoric in a nation at a certain point, I studied rhetoric throughout the ages in a master's course, and it just showed how a nation changed, like with Scrooge during the Industrial Revolution. It made people's hearts softer because they were getting too industrialized and treating people as machines. And so the same thing here was, we had a nation, and Facebook, social medias, whether you agree or not on the understanding of people coming over that love God and wanting to establish a nation where God could be loved, that's indisputable. That's a fact. Now, whether they made mistakes, we don't want to negate history. And by censoring me and not allowing me to boost, post, or even with my son, you get 30, 50,000 people listening just on Facebook, and now there's 500, and the algorithms that make that happen. That's sad. And you're a young man, Mr. Zuckerberg, and some of the others that are running these companies, and you have an agenda, and it's an agenda from your hearts that you think our nation would be better as a socialistic nation. But it's just becoming too wrong. It's like teenagers with their parents, where they say, hey, you don't have much value now. We're finding out what was wrong in your philosophy, and we don't want to hear you. Well, you're not in a position when you get into a public arena, as I led in churches or other places, or I led the Supreme Court at my university, and I had to allow for differing opinions. And that's what our nation's about, the freedom to do that. And so this has gotten to be too much, and censoring what's happening with the vote, and the truth of the vote not being just. And injustice, when you start to wink at it on one side, then you become as worse. You got to look for, all of us, what's right either side, and believe truth is important enough to value, whether the right is saying something or the left is saying something. To disqualify a person, to say your opinion's not important, to say what I've lived in communistic nations. I've lived a total of 4.5 years in different nations. That I lived in a nation, Zimbabwe, where it's my experience. And I was all over the USA Today and other papers, because the group that we came there as missionaries just to care for the people, a tribe, and we gave all that we had to care for the tribe. And I got down to 150 pounds because I didn't eat so that they could eat. And it's really true. People can do those kind of things out of love. And then the tribal people came in with AK-47s that they had gotten from China and Russia. And it's really true. You study it out. You go look at the first white farmers killed in Matabele land and Bulawayo, and you'll find the story through the social media that now is censoring some of these things. You find out that's true. And it was stated in all the papers that they came in and killed these whites, that whites are not bad. It's just the heart of anybody. And we can look beyond our privilege. We can look beyond those things, and we sacrificed on purpose and gave everything to care for them. And then they came in and they axed to death everybody. And my wife and I just happened to be gone that night, or we would have gotten axed to death. And they took one axe and axed 20 people, 16 people. And you look it up, and they did it one at a time. And that's an axe. I chopped wood in Zimbabwe. When it gets dull and you hit a person once, it's dull. And then you can't, it's so cruel. You just have to batter a person. And then the first man was Dave Murray that walked in and he said, I'm going home tonight. And they asked him to do that in front of Isnadi, who was a tribal woman we took in and loved, and she was a great contribution. Love was bigger. In the world of God, there's a different view. It's not all the churches make mistakes. They're young, like everybody else. They say hypocritical things, they say wrong things, but do they have malice? It's just people trying to find love. And I can't get mad at a church. I can't get mad at people unless they're cruel and they won't take responsibility for it, which happens sometimes, but still, people are people and they're just growing and learning and love. And when we get the eyes of God for people, then we're going to value and appreciate anybody and everybody along the process. And I value and appreciate the social media and the ones that lead it, because it's a lot of work, a lot of effort, and you can make a lot of income, but money doesn't spell everything. And I know that you've sacrificed a lot. This message to Facebook, message to all the other social medias, but for you to censor a man that's lived a real life. I'm 62 and I've lived a real life, and I've been a smart guy. I lived with a father who's a genius, and he just was a master in chess, and he gave himself for the inner city schools in a way that most haven't done, where I lived in the inner city and I cared for the people. I went to the tribe and cared for them, and I'm not going to stop love because they killed the people I lived with. So we're hurt people, they're broken souls, and they came and they didn't want us helping because they wanted their tribe to revolt against the other tribes. So they wanted, by us feeding them, their tribe was getting complacent, they thought. And so they had to kill the ones that were helping their own tribe. They would dress up like the other tribe, the Shonas and their Matabelees, and they'd go in, rape their own women, and kill them out of the 3 million, because Simeon Towns, his family was part of it, who's on this call. And they did it because they're trying to provoke a revolt. And they thought that's how they could get heard, how they could get rule. And it was anarchy. You just don't fight that way. You just don't do things that way, and you don't kill the people that love you. And you forget who's friend and who's foe. And we've done that in this nation. We've done this. Why? A man like me, you don't know. You don't know what I've been through. You don't know who I've loved. You don't know what I've done to sacrifice for that love. You don't know that I love Jesus. And I didn't. I was a communist. I was a Trotskyite. I led a Supreme Court. I led things that said share everything in common. And I'm not against people sharing and caring for the poor. It's just not to be forced through government. It's got to be voluntary from the hearts, or you end up with automatons, people that aren't people. They're just being used and manipulated. And we've got to give people free will to decide for themselves. And this is a time where wisdom isn't to control each other. Let's all turn to God. And if you have any opinion, my son that has learned about, who says now that he's an atheist, not an atheist, but agnostic, but he's a kind person. I love him. My daughters have been challenged. The one is spiritual. The others don't know about the fundamentalists or the evangelical, and they like making fun of them. And it's just, they're better than that. And they're all better than that. And let's put down our swords. And let's put down our swords where we're not telling the truth in this nation. We do have injustice in the voting process. It's big time. And it's got to be looked at. And we don't want to just stop people from communicating their hearts. I've been in nations when they lose their heart and they get afraid through domination and force, and you're forcing me when I speak on here, and you tell me that my facts are wrong, and then you tell me you won't boost me. I won't be allowed to advertise. I've been already in a place where I can't add people. And let me just tell you a little bit about me. That I was in Zimbabwe, and they did come, and they axed everybody to death, and it was the most severe of control. And we rose up and went to the 16 that killed the 16 people. There were 16 dissidents, and we loved them. And 9 of them came and gave their love to Jesus because they saw that love was bigger. They saw the true nature of Jesus, which is to forgive, and it's to heal, and it has hope for everybody, and it has confidence that God's love is greater and his ability to lead than evil and its ability to deceive. And give it a chance, love. Give the freedoms that our nation has a chance. You know, I was checked on what I said about Australia. Well, check this out too. Go look it up. That I went to Australia in 2015. There was a Qantas crisis. Look it up. Where Bob, who was the owner of Qantas, said, I'm not flying my planes anymore because they were forcing business owners. And for some, business has been easier. They're in bigger margin realities. Some, like I owned a cleaning company, had 130 people. I made $1 an hour from their work, and I ended up caring for so many people in ways, and gave houses to my employees that they didn't insure and burned down. Making money was not easy in the industry I was at. I worked with heartbroken people, toothless ad, one-tooth terrorists, and I did it out of love. I didn't do it to just make myself money off of people. And it's not at all the fear and greed model. There could be some benevolence in business. And so, but I go to Australia, and the man says, I'm not going to run my business here. He owns the planes. And he said, because you're forcing me into social labor laws, and you said it was going to be for the indigenous people, and you made it for everybody. And when I hire somebody, I got to hire them for 2 years before I can let them go. And they don't even have to show up. They don't even have to work when they're there because the government so protects them, and then they can go somewhere else and do the same thing. And I can't tell the next owner. Well, he said, I'm done. And so I went over there, and I had just started to lose my health. Just started to have this, what I've been challenged with, where my adrenals don't produce. And so my energy was gone. My body has this nerve problem, RSD. And I went there anyhow. And I went to Love, and they asked me to come, and they asked me as a chaplain, but also they looked at me as somebody that had wisdom because I'd helped their parliament before. Well, I went in this time, and he was there, Bob, and the owner of Qantas, and he was very upset. He said, I'm done. Well, he got 40,000 employees. The ripple effect through the nation was just devastating. But the parliament, some of them were just not. They think business people were evil and corrupt, and they thought they're just greedy. But no, maybe they're called to it, and then maybe they're anointed to do it. They're a lot maybe better than athletes that are making millions of dollars that have no responsibility. I'm not saying that. I don't want to compare. I'm just saying we've taken our focus, social media, on people that really try to be productive and constructive, a lot of them. I'm not saying everybody, but he had a right to say, I'm done. I can't run a business like this. I'm losing money all the time. And I just wanted to build a dream and something that's really cool. And they don't have that dream. They just want to use and milk the company for their own protection. There's something sacred about having a beautiful business that's a dream and that really provides goods and services for the good of others. It's a dream. And just to say everybody should get paid and be able to use this, it has no incentive, no love, no care for those who had battled before you for that. It's so wrong. And so I went and I said, I appealed to them about the freedoms. I had researched the freedoms and how their nation had started and their inheritance, and they're about to give it away. And I said, you're to be affectionate Australian, show affection for everybody, all nations. And I got very direct about different people groups and their wonder and their uniqueness and their original design before God. And I said, do not steal that from them. Just let them go into a business, not have to work without reward, work without meaning, destroys a person. I've seen it in Zimbabwe where men just lived off the state and didn't produce, and they hated themselves, and they got into all kinds of evil because they were made to be creative and productive in their own unique stamp, like a snowflake. They got to wonder about them. And so I just shared with all my heart about the original design of human beings, about the original design of the nation, about the inheritance and the freedoms of that nation to build and to grow a business and to grow people and to have a garden of human development. And they exploded with me. And the senators, they were listening, and Julianne, the prime minister, they were listening, and Bob's listening. And then I pointed at a senator, and he was 82, and I said, you helped bring the oil here, the oil of life, the oil of the presence of God, the oil of joy. And I said, this bickering, this fighting with each other, and this sowing hatred and getting into these corners and thinking thoughts of destruction for others. I said, this lead us with love. I said, overcome evil with good, love, value love. And I pointed at him and said, you brought the oil. And I said, would you just pray for us? That man got up, that senator, and he prayed like I have never heard anybody pray. And he declared the wonder of what God had given them in a nation. And we got to look at our history and our past full of appreciation. Are we devaluated? And it's not saying that everything was right, but we've made such advancements in the last 150 years. And there was such sacrifice with the knowledge that people are coming after me and I'm going to make way for them, that they can enjoy and celebrate their lives in liberty and love and life and the pursuit of God if they desire to do that, which is wondrous for anyone. And I do it thinking of next generations. And then it's all canceled out by a generation that sees that you had evil intent and you're doing it for your own pockets. I did not raise 4 children, give all my life for them not to understand. It cost me everything. And I was glad to do it. But if they listen to something that negates it and says, my generation was a generation we had to fight and be for what we got, in the sense of it was just going out and working hours upon hours. We did it so we could lay wealth at our children's feet so they could have a peaceful, like we were like David's, that we fought for everything. And then you're like Solomon's, that you can build peace and wisdom. And that's what we want for you. We don't want you to have to go through the same struggles, but to tear it all down, to negate it all. That's what was going to happen in Australia. And he got up and he brought a remembrance of the wonder of what people had done and their real heart motives. And then he proclaimed the freedoms and the futures and the inheritance for Australia in the future. He did that, and they had said the planes that had stopped in Australia would be down for at least 9 months. There was no way at that point to get them up and going. And when he got done, they all looked at me. And I said, you all agree with that? A higher note had come in there, the base nature and the pain note, and pointing the fingers and accusing each other of being less than we are. How can you argue with that when somebody sees you a base animal and your motives as a base animal? No, the whole atmosphere changed where they saw each other with honor, appreciation. It's called love. And it's first to love. It's not first to criticize, critique. We've been taught critical analysis as our educational form. And it's this knowledge that puffs up and because we think we know better. versus love that appreciates and tries to understand before it destroys something. Well, they looking and they saw how we're destroying each other over petty things. We're destroying our nation over petty things. And they agreed with the heart and this higher note that had come into that place. And not the patriotism that's off the charts that makes everything right, that wasn't, but just the overall momentum that was moved from love and was still being fought for by the better nature of human beings in Australia. And I looked at them all and I said, your planes will be up in a few days. And they were. And there was much evil that was averted. There was much destruction because they held out their hands in love for one another. And they sought to understand each other. And they sought to understand a different perspective. And there can be perspectives that are more, they're more for the individual and they're more benevolent. There's those that see the garden for all, which is so important. And then there's ones that see the flower for one. And they have to come together. We have different notes in the symphony for a reason. And so don't censor me. Listen to my heart. Listen to others' hearts. Listen to the truth in our nation and the cry from the people that are not trumpets or this or that. You know, I did not go for Mr. Trump in the beginning because I just thought you got to be more inclusive. That's not, and you got to have a financial model, not that we win, they lose, but we all win. And you got to speak with people with appreciation. And when you see something that's not right, that's right to call it out. But there's a way to do it that I thought was different. And then I saw him speak with his feet and do a lot of wondrous things. It was like a child. I felt like that. I mean, he's the leader of our nation, so I'll always honor. And I honored Mr. Obama, President Obama. I honor and pray for him. It's difficult job, and so many influences that can come in to make him not make good decisions. But the more we think of him evil and corrupt, then you give up as a leader. You just get tired of it. You're doing your best for others. And so how about feeding him with some hope about himself and seeing that he could change, that he could have a different disposition? If you always got to have your dukes up, and that's what you're doing to me. That's what you're doing to a number of people, is you're saying, I don't think your life's valid. I don't think your opinion's valid. I don't think it's well thought out. Or I've experienced life a lot more than any of you probably, and I'd love to match that. But that's not the reason. It's that I'm an authentic man, and we are, and there's freedoms for our nation that we desire for you. We desire you to have freedom to do what you did, to build a company, and for you to enjoy the ability to speak freely. We didn't empower you to riot on the streets and destroy people or to say their opinion is of no good. And for you to just cancel it when we're trying to talk to our friends and we're financing this proposition of social media. So I appeal to you tonight to let me shout the freedoms for our nation. Let me shout about who Jesus is, and don't be threatened by it. Maybe he'll touch your heart. Maybe he'll show you how much he loves you and delights in you. And you won't treat him like somebody that's just going to be oppressive with his rules. I feel your rules. I feel you ruling my areas of my life where I don't have freedom to just be myself and to love the people I'm called to love, and to value the freedoms to worship, the freedoms to gather, the freedoms to make a living and have property, freedoms to use the resources that I've earned with all my heart and paid my taxes and done to give to the places that I desire to give it, to bless people in the right way, and for me to be responsible for that, not the state, But the government, I know that the government can be wonderful, but that's not what they're going to do well. It's knowing the boundaries of different arenas. Family, the family is something that's so beautiful and has a place. So I am appealing that as till January 20th, and that's what I feel like in God, I proclaim the freedoms for our nation, the inheritance for our nation. Listen, it's not threatening. It's life. It's love. It's not going to be about getting guns, freedom, bear arms, go after others. That's just not part of me. And I'm telling you that I was with someone tonight, Andrew Brunson, and you can look him up, that he was in Turkey, and he's one of the most tender men. Look him up. And his wife Noreen, and they're very gracious people, and they are, in our nation, they talk to leaders from our nation, other nations, and they do it with such care, and they have such a faith in God, faith in people, faith in the next generation, faith in cities and nations, being Cleveland that gets its respect back and has. What a wonderful story. Marveling Melbourne, new life in New York. Think about that we could be the good Samaritan nation. And that's what they saw. Well, he was in Turkey, and he just didn't overtly break the rules, but just it's in him. He just loves this man named Jesus. And if you love somebody so much, he talked about him some, and they threw him into prison, and they gave him 3 life sentences, and they beat him because he loves a man, Jesus. And the threat of Jesus and just walking in that presence of him and his tenderness. I mean, Jesus laid down his life for us. How could anybody be offended by just his kindness and his goodness? Some of the trappings of the church, it's a growing institution. It's to be loved as a baby, and we got to support it. We got to tell it how to get better. We just don't kill everything. Well, he was here tonight at my house, and he wrote a song, and I called it out. I didn't know it. The Lord just touched me with it. And worthy of my all is Jesus. After he gets 3 life sentences, he says, I'm not going to give up my inheritance. I'm going to give my love for him. I'm going to give hope to people all of my life. Is that a bad thing? I'm going to stand for them to be able to meet him. We're not forcing anything, evangelicals. I see some of the tapes that are played on Facebook about the crazy evangelicals. What are they saying now? Why do we want to hurt them? I mean, why are you any better if you're wanting to hurt them? What is wrong with you that you would be like that and you would just mock and why do you do that? People out there. Guys, there's real human beings on the other end. They might have some outward expressions that seem corny or this or that. Who cares? You watch at these, watch somebody do rap. You're talking about everybody doing it the same and everybody smoking a joint and doing it. I mean, it's just it could be, I could look at that, or I could look at their hearts and see what they're trying to say and just love them as human beings, love their artistry if they have it. And if I don't get into it, I don't have an opinion. I just don't try and destroy everything that's not like me. We were a unique nation that brought in others and sought to understand them. Black, white, yellow, red. Now we had much more love, black and whites, before all this systematic racism. It's just not true. It's not in me. I'm not going to look. I don't even know this person until you've said a million times. It's a reason for things. The idea that if I was born and I had a choice, what color would I be? I don't know. I want to be a lover of God. I want a heart and essence that does that. The privileges and all that are so weighed, the temporal, and life's got to be bigger than this. And so I will, and with all the friends here, I'm going to shout the freedoms of God I'm going to shout out the inheritance for you out of love. I'm not going to try and control you in any way. But if you're allowing untruth to go forth across this nation about what happened and all across our nation with the voting process and things like that, where I'm just seeing too much truth that the media is not to do this. I mean, in other nations I've gone in, they don't even pay attention to their media. And, there's a place where in the church we paid attention to the big churches that said, if you leave the mother church, the Catholic Church, you're going to hell. Many millions of that believe that. And we thought because the big church said it, that means it's right. And then we realized, no, we can have a relationship with God, not be controlled. Now all the churches are free, many of them free. And even Catholic Church said that's wrong. We can't do that. We can't control media. We can't control the government. We can't control finances of people. People are smart enough to see this is not truth what the media is saying. And you're controlling me. And I'm an honest man with my honest heart, with my honest love for God, with my honest sacrifice for this nation and for people in this nation, and my father and my grandfather that all gave. And you're wanting to say it's of no value. You want to say they did it out of evil motives. Don't you do that. Don't you dare. We appreciate those who've gone before us. Did they have the same revelation we did in all areas? Maybe they had better in areas, but we just got to understand. I realized when I taught at a university and I had just the things that I would deal with because I was quiet, but I was known to love the Lord. There were 66 professors patting me on the head, the poor fundamentalists. I'd go to speak, and they always canceled me out. And it was one of the most horrible feelings. And I loved them, but they didn't love me. They saw me as an object of scorn. And they never asked me what I had been most opposed to the faith. And then I got touched by him in a Chicago hotel room, and I fell in love. I met him, and I love him. And I know how much he loves you. And I just say, let us proclaim our freedoms in him. Let you feel that kind of love. Because I'm going to love you whether you love me or not. I'm going to fight for your rights, fight for your heart, just to be you. I'm not trying to control you. But it's time to put down the weapons that you can use, algorithms, and to tell me that I'm not true with the facts, and I'm unboostable because this person is unboostable and you're strong about it. You can't advertise, and you can't, I haven't been added to for a long time, and people are adding their voices. And I just say it's enough. So let's see these next 30 days or 45 till the 20th or what. So I proclaim the freedoms to our nation. I proclaim stories of the heart of our nation. And it's about the Lord in our nation. It's not just patriotism. It's a people that chose together to try and do it better in God. And they did an astounding, the Constitution's astounding. Bill of Rights is astounding. And so just give us a chance to declare the wonder and appreciate its value and love. And don't negate it. Don't tell me my sacrifice and my understanding is nothing. It's made a lot of difference to a lot of people. And let me bring the hope that I'm called to bring in God. And if you don't do it and you censor me here, I'll be heard elsewhere and much more. And then you'll have people that abandon you in your day of need. You have people that tell you you're nothing. It's the elderly people that nobody listens to anymore, and they throw them in brick buildings and they don't pay any attention. Fight for them. Fight for them. But you don't want to be one of those. You want to be one that's honored, your opinion's honored. your thoughts are honored, even if they're disagreed with. So to all my friends out there, I'm going through some health stuff I haven't been on lately, but the Lord, I just believe, has really told me for the next 40 days, I'm not talking day by day about what's in the news. He's the news, and he's big. He's the God that's greater. Dots of evil will stand to magnify the Lord, not the dot. And the more we focus on the dot, the bigger it gets. And all of a sudden we lose a sense of the God that stewards all. And we can't, hope sees a far ways out according to his goodness and proclaims it. Hope sees when people are hurting and they have opinions and they've been hurt in life and they build companies and they want to say build a better world. Hope lets them find their way, as long as they don't destroy others in the process. Then that has to be stopped. But hope has an insight that I'll share, and there's a hope in God. It's an attribute of God. It's the forever attribute. Faith, hope, and love. Hope's been the buried treasure that's to be dug up after 6,000 years, and it's to be seen. And it's indomitable hope causes us not to bite with bitterness and defensiveness because it's all going to hell. No, we see it with more life, more love. We see with a smile. I'll just leave you with this. My father, he was a man that had come from, he's half Irish, and he came from a place in Philadelphia, Irish, and Ogons Avenue, Irish Catholics. And so he never left his neighborhood. His father was murdered when he was 2. His mother worked 16 hours at a dress company every day. And he lived with his 6 uncles and his mother in a 2-bedroom place. And so his name was Jackie, John, and he got called for the war. He got where he had to go. And he went to take blood. They took blood, and when they took blood out of him, he passed out. So he out on the street, passed out. He looks up, and there's a black man helping him. And he was taught that black men were not good men. And so that affected him. Then when he was in the war, he was a machine gunner, and he was as great a pacifist as I've ever met. He wouldn't let me have a toy gun in the house. And he had gotten disoriented. He was a machine gunner because he was a good shot. And they tried to take the machine gunners out, and they put his head down in the snow, and he just froze. And there were 2 Polish men that could have their lives and crawled up and got his feet, pulled his feet back. They were brothers. They pull him back a foot, they'd crawl back, pull him back another foot, saved his life. He got double polio. Either polio should have killed him, and he fought because he knew he'd have a family, and he knew that he'd have a son, me, and others. And he just fought, and he exercised, and he sweated, and they all stood and clapped when he walked out of that hospital. 50% of the men had died, and he committed himself to the inner city and to care for people down there. It was hard working with the school board and stuff. There was a lot of corruption, but there was also a lot of good people. And he taught me how to love, and I stayed down there and listened to a lot of people's hearts and people that had been in gangs and things, and just we were able to speak hope to them. We were able to speak about a better way. My father this was a picture of my father. My grandmother would give him the hardest time. One time, he was a genius, but he wore 2 different color socks, couldn't start a lawnmower. He just was a professor. And he taught at universities at night and local colleges. But my grandmother said, "You lost 8 jobs last summer. You're no good for nothing. You're worthless. You can't bring a family up." And she was so hard on him, and I'm behind him. She said, "You've never done anything good." She said, "My daughter should have never married you." And there's this pause. And my dad says, "No, I lost 9 jobs. You forgot about this other one." He said, I tried to be a carpenter. I couldn't hit a nail. He said, "I was seller of ladies' underwear at Macy's." And he said, I wear 2 different colored socks." And everybody laughed. And my grandmother, he'd say, "It's a nice day." My grandmother would say, "It's going to rain tomorrow." And he'd say, "Probably snow." And I just saw him marry the generations and the difference, but I saw an indomitable hope. My father looked at me when I was in the midst of drugs. Well, to you, I'm a poor fundamentalist. And my father looked at me in that place, drugs, poor fundamentalists. They're never going to be any good for anything. Looked at me, a drug dealer. For 3 years I was a lifeguard at an inner city pool, and a boy drowned. And I cracked. It was on my watch. I got lied about in the newspapers. I couldn't believe it. A woman I shared my heart with, I was so sad about the boy drowning, was a Kansas City Star reporter, put me on the front page and said, "Uncertified lifeguard lets little boy drown." Destroyed my heart. I just thought, I was a dirt clod, and I hadn't done that. And so I get on drugs. My family, I just do horrible things to our name. I become a thief. I see my dad for 3 years. I hadn't seen him. It's an amazing story. I'll just tell you this. I show up at Thanksgiving. I'd taken a college class, trying to get my life back together. Teacher comes in, starts to say something. I interrupt him. I end it. It was a rhetorical question. I answer it before there's not really even a question. I just finished the statement. He turns around and says, "Bobby, it was my dad. I was so strung out on drugs. I lost so much weight from speed." And he said, "I'd really like to see you on Thanksgiving." That was September. I didn't come to the class again. I show up at Thanksgiving. The whole class stunned. I come in. I got a long hair, big hickey on my neck, messed up, and everybody, it's like a Scud missile's gone off. There's no joy in Mudville. They're just hating me, and I'm hating myself. And I sit down at the table, and I just want out of there so bad. And I just had so become a mess, and I feel warm. I feel delight. I look up, my father's looking at me. He's not an emotional man, but tender. Tears are coming down his face. And he said, "Son," he's beaming, "you're my delight." I started having a nervous breakdown. I started crying. I said, "Dad, you see how much a mess I'm in? I'm doing horrible things, Dad. I'm getting others on drugs." He said, "Son, I know who you are." And he said, "You'll pin your problems to the mat." I was a wrestler. And he said, "You're going to be a great man, touch a lot of lives." You talk about hope. I said, "Dad, I hope it's true. I hope it's true." And every time I went out and made a bad drug deal, I heard the voice of my father. "You're going to be a great man. You're going to touch a lot of lives." It changed me. Can you say that to me? Facebook, YouTube, can you say that to me? You're going to be a good man. I don't disagree with you and everything, but your life's not wasted. Your children that say it's horrible to be a Christian and they're all fakes. Can you say to them, "No, there's substance there"? I'm not saying they're all saying that or this. I'm just saying it's easy to do that kind of stuff. Can we be a nation that loves? Can you lead us in love? Can you show what that means? Can you not get upset at senators who are giving you a hard time and that and this and try and lash out? Can you just say, maybe they're trying to say something, I don't like the way they're carrying it? Can we listen to one another? Can we be for one another? Can we give each other what it says? You're innocent until proven guilty. You're valuable just because you're a human being. That's what was unique about the United States. It said you're valuable. What other color, creed? We have said that. We've learned a lot. People have blindness at times. It's not intentional, where they just don't see another group of people the way they should. And then they get awakened like my dad did by seeing this man help him in love. And then it's voluntary, the black man, versus you're not loving enough. And you've been evil all the time. And you did this. And your grandfathers did this and that. No, They didn't. They cared. And they didn't know how to care in all ways, but were they cared for in all ways? No. Everybody has suffered a lot. Everybody's had a hard time in life. It's time for human beings to be for one another and to comfort one another and care for one another. My gosh, let's not be the Grinches, not the Scrooges, just this evil darkness that wants to come and get our better selves. No, we're saying no. We're saying the value of a human being, the golden value of a human being, the dignity and the wonder. It's all of us across this nation. And we'll all stand for California to be clean, loving California. Celebrate it. Celebrate the people. Give them an invitation to something higher. Every day, Wisconsin, wondrous Wisconsin. I'm going to proclaim it free, wondrous Wisconsin, that there would not be this battle over the votes and with people that are controlling things. It just would be, what's the truth? All of us want the truth. From the beginning, I would have said, okay, is there a problem here? But that wasn't, it was how to squelch it in our presidential election, because we don't value the one who's in the office. Well, we value the office, and we value noble men and women devise noble plans. By noble plans they stand. If we cheat to get to our conclusion, it's not what we do in life, it's how we do it. And we all have this better place to do it with love and do it with hope. So please give me the opportunity to be me. Please listen to my heart. Please don't cut me off. And please allow us to celebrate the virtues and the values versus saying the facts are wrong and I'm putting you off for declaring that the nation fought for the flag to stay because the flag represented a freedom and a life and a liberty that we just honor, we appreciate, and we think about those who did it. And I'm just going to stop there, but I'm going to continue, you guys, to proclaim the freedoms. Praying, just new life in Nevada. Philadelphia, I proclaim that you'll be Philadelphia, the true place of godly love and brotherly love. And you'll show our nation that. You won't have to do things in dark corners. You don't have to put another people group in a little box and tell them they can't be a part of the process. And we don't do that. You're wonderful Philadelphia. You love all people, and you love the people that you think that have been the problems. Maybe they haven't. Maybe they got some problems, but maybe they've done a wondrous job in a lot of ways. You'll look for the good. And, I got to look for 10 things I appreciate about people before I look for something negative. And I don't even look like that. I always ask about another person. God, how much do you love them? If I have an opinion or attitude, I can tell. I say, God, how much do you love them? Have you ever had a negative thought about them, God? Do they make your heart skip a beat when they come? How much are you delighted in them? How much are they the apple of your eye? What virtues do they have that you love and you want me to love? He's never had me ask a disappointing question about a person, because God hopes all things. So I love you, and I will be declaring the freedoms, and we will be on this Facebook and on the other social medias. Lord, we just thank you for this time. God, we say in Pennsylvania, let there be the presence of you, and it be known as the presence place of your goodness and your ways. And let your angels go forth there, minister to the people, and bring out the right conclusion. God, we say to the news media outlets, we say faith in Fox News, that they'd have faith in you, faith in your ways, faith in what's right. God, we say for MSNBC, we say, God, let them be mighty in truth. Let them be mighty and just honoring the truth. God, let them be that one that just looks for this marveling MSNBC, that it marvels at you, God. Let each one of them have a visitation from you. And us, all of us. God, we ask you for CBS. We ask you for ABC. We ask for Isaiah 6, that all see you high and lifted up, see the wonder of your care. We ask for the Joshua 5 experience. God, in the different states where there's a question about the vote, God, to Dominion and to the leaders of Dominion, the software, the computer, or the voting machines. God, we say, you're the one who has dominion. You're the one who's greater. Send in all those that want the truth, and amongst that company, let them be visited with the Joshua 5, where he came and to Joshua, and he says, are you for us or against us? He said, neither. I'm the captain of the host. I'm the leader. God, come as a leader in that area. And come and bring. First, you said, even to the Ephraim, who you had to speak against, you said, you called them to that place like Hosea 2, where they weren't looking to you, and you took them into the wilderness, you spoke kindly to them. Just come as the Isaiah 6 God that speaks kindly and brings that repentance, that ability to change to our whole nation, and that we'll always remember the miracle of these days where we got soft to you and tender to you as a whole nation, and we worshiped you together, and we loved you, the worthy one, together. God, you got redeemed cities, bring them forth all across the nation where they're having problems and there's trials on the streets in Oregon and Portland. God, bring your peace in Portland. God, your order, your leadership. God, we invite you in, and this nation is yours. You inherit it north, south, east, west. You bring about, God, just the goodness of you, and you allow people to prosper. You're not controlling people. You allow them to delight. Bring delightful Delaware forth. Bring delightful dominion. Change it to where it has this radical seeing of you and responds that way. Lord, we ask you for you to visit China, bring its whole heart to you, our God. Cause there just to be those leaders that say, I saw him, one glimpse of you, and everything changes forever. God, we see your authority coming in and your beauty. And we hope, which is confident expectation in you, for this outcome of this election, the outcome of these days, where it's led by your goodness and your power. In Jesus' name, amen. God bless you guys. Thank you for listening. Okay. Spread this word if you can. Okay. See you later. And I will be, Hilmar, love you. Daniel Falls wrote a great book on the history of the prophetic in Kansas City. Get that. Mike Town, you're a man that sees what's good. Brad, I love you. I hope you're doing well, my brother. You're just such a joy. You care for others even when you're being challenged yourself. Linda, you're a joy. Loving Linda. Loving Linda. Full of faith, Fran. You're not going to be moved. Michelle, they're going to be mighty in love. And I believe all of you to look for tender Tammy. You're going to bring tenderness to people that want to hurt, want to harm right now. You bring tenderness to them, and they'll settle down. But I say, Tammy, just some battles aren't yours. And this is for everyone, that you get yourself worn out when you're fighting the wrong battles. Let me just finish with this. That I had a point where I was ministering, as pastor, and I my grandmother was dying, and I tried to pray for her. She had asked me to, and then all of a sudden she set up, about ripped out her IVs and said, "You're disowned. Nobody's ever liked you." And just a lot of fear came over, terror. And I said, "Nan, I love you. I'll just leave you alone." And so and Terry, we'd just been married. She was freaked out. And so we backed out of the hospital room, and she called in my uncle and said he cut me between the toes with the razor blade and told me, "Suffer, suffer, suffer." So she was just, spirit of terror was on my grandmother. So I went to bed that night, and my wife's screaming. I was fighting something. I'm up punching in the air, and I just, got attacked by that spirit of terror. It was all night. And I know it sounds weird to some of you, but it was just, and it had been so painful for my grandmother to think I'd hurt her and all that. And so I was going to go back the next day and just fight this battle for her peace. I hated her being, just abused by the enemy while she was, just let her die in peace. And so, but the next day I go and I lead a prayer meeting at 6:30 in the morning, and I'm going to quit ministry. This is too much. I'm beat up. This battle, taking it out of me, and I'm still going to fight it, because you got to fight for your grandmother. She's being, just her dreams and her sleep, and, she deserves peace. Well, Bob Jones walks in, and he never got up at that time. And he walked in, and he said, "Bob, he's mad at me first because he had to wake up at the time." I said, "Hey, you had a battle?" And he said, "With the little demon last night." And I said, "No, not little, man." I said, "I'm just big and impressive." And he said, "A little demon." I said, when you have that terror sleeps at night, it's not little. And just my wife was scared. It was horrible, And he said, "It wasn't your battle." He said, "I had a dream, and you're trying to pull a 20-story concrete pillar out of the ground." My grandma was in her 80s, and he said, "Just pray that she dies in peace. Don't try and afflict her soul. She's got this fear of death, and just pray for her." And he said, "But don't go in there anymore. You're just stirring it up." And so he said, "In my dream, your dad was in a river by the sandy beach where this concrete pillar was." And he said, "Your grandmother wasn't your battle, and you're getting exhausted trying to pull a pillar out." And he said, "That's just the depths in her soul of just, that affliction." And he said, "Just again, pray for peace and that she can make the transition, because she'd given her life to the Lord a few weeks earlier, but it wasn't going to all change." And so, he said, "Your dad was asking questions of life and death. You were throwing a life raft." So I went back out, and or the next times I came, I didn't go in and fight that battle with my grandmother. I would have lost and been exhausted because I wasn't graced to fight that. And I sat and loved my dad. And I said, "Dad, how you doing?" He said, "Bobby, I don't know about life and death." And it was a beautiful time. But if you fight the wrong battle at the wrong time, you don't get into the boxing ring with the opponent. It says it means destruction for him in Philippians. You just don't do that. But 6 months after that, and I'm real young in the Lord, and I'm leading about 50 leaders. I'm trying to get them together to lead. We had 500 young adults, 300 teenagers, and I'm just gone every night, and with a single mom, a lot of times with her son, who's just having so much problems, and my wife is alone home, and I'm just exhausted raising up all these leaders. I think they can help minister to everybody, and it takes about 8 months, and then in 3 months they're all gone. During the summer, they get jobs at other churches, they get married to each other, and I'm just exhausted. I'm done. And the worst thing was, I just thought I was a horrible leader, and nobody wanted to lead with me. And I'm just so oppressed. I'm quitting ministry, and I'm at a church picnic. It was a big one. There were a couple thousand people there, and Bob Jones finds me at a table, and he said, "So they all left you?" And I said, "Yep, every one of them." I said, "They just stepped on my heart, took it off, stepped on out, and stepped on my heart with football cleats." I said, "They just don't care." And he said, "You've planned your way of escape." I said, "I'm getting a job. I'm just not good at leading all that." And I said, it just hurts too much. And he said, you want to know what really happened? And I said, no, I want to whine some more. I said, you just want to whine? I said, yeah, I deserve to whine. This has been hard, And he said, let me tell you what happened. I said, all right. Finally I acquiesced. And he said, I'm proud of you. And he said, congratulations. And I said, huh? And he said, you graduated then. He said, you had 3 lessons. You were a first grade teacher. And I did. My acronym for my leadership or for our vision was SIR, to serve with love. The old Sidney Poitier movie was just about loving others, security that were different. It was security in God, identity in Him, and respect for God, self, and others. Because there wasn't a lot of respect in Him for others at that point. And I taught him that. And I said, there's a right to respect Democrat or Republican or independent, or this, it's right to respect different colors. It's right to just respect somebody that's from the inner city or from, just they're human beings. And so Bob Jones said, proud of you. You graduated all of them. You get another first grade class. I said, huh? So within a month and a half, I got 50 other leaders, and they were awesome. And I ended up starting a cleaning business with 130 people in it because I had toothless Ed, one-tooth Terrence. And if I could teach Ed to go from a 12-pack to a 6-pack and just quit cussing and being mean to people for a little while, that was success. And Ed did that. And I felt so awesome, but they'd come and go. They'd learn a lesson, and I just knew God would provide. Or it would have killed me 18 years having people not show up 10 a week, and you have to clean their buildings and their theaters. But God always provided. I saw He did it in the past. He's going to do it in the present. And I just got expanded grace. There's new miracles for us at this time, and expanded grace like we've never seen. And so we have new levels of challenges, people, and new levels of challenges in our nation. Well, we don't weigh ourselves by the common grace we had last month. We got a greater grace to deal with this and lift the whole situation up in hope. So be with me as we command angel armies, as I speak of new miracles, and as we release the freedoms and the inheritance of the Lord in the nights to come. Jacqueline, that's right. I earned my whiny time. Carol, it is wise, with my grandmother. I just thank you so much. I appreciate that. So let's not get ourselves wore out. Let's not look at the bad news all the time. We've got a choice. We're to be prisoners of hope. And if something hits me and outside of my grace time, outside of hope, then I know I'm not to be chewing on that at that time. I know what I'm grace for. You have a lift in your spirit. And so, and when something hits you a little difficult, just adore Him more. And then we get on the other side of it, and we have grace for the things that we never thought we could have grace. And an answer and a solution and a hope. When I had one of my children not like me, not think much of me, and I had been their hero, I said, Lord, what I do wrong as a father? And He said, no, it's the exact opposite. He said, with your dad, I thought, as a kid, what did my dad do wrong for me to turn out on drugs? And he said, no, you got it wrong, the wrong question. He said, your dad, out of all the universe, out of all the planet, out of all history, was the only one that could stabilize you when you were going to choose this path. And I picked him because I so loved you. And He kept you and told you that you'd become quite a man. And so you can look at him as being deficient, but I chose him out of everyone of all of history to be your dad because he'd stabilize you when you were on drugs and throughout your life. And He did that and brought me in hope when I was hopeless. But I could have looked at what he did wrong and looked at it a whole wrong way. And so to my child, I know I'm the best one on the planet to help you feel love and be stabilized when you feel bad about everybody and everything. That I'm not going to let you become a bitter child because God chose me that I might be there all the time for you. And I get the opportunity to be that alien sent in from another place to stabilize you and bring you love. And maybe that's what we've been brought for others in that we think are the other side. Maybe we're the ones to love them and help them be the best parts of themselves. It's something we can look right past the Facebook leaders that are censoring me, and I see who they are in God, and I know their names by the Spirit, and I send them a note. And I say, hey, let me tell you who you are. And then I ask the Lord to have me meet them. I've met people in the sauna like that or the steam room where I asked to meet them. I saw a mayor in a city on TV, and I said, Lord, let me meet him. Meet him in the sauna. I tell him a story. He holds my hand, and we invite God in. I met the one leader in Detroit in the school district, and I was just adoring in a workout room and in a hotel. And I saw him, and I said, let me meet that man. It was on national TV, and I met him, and I just said, hey, can I keep adoring the Lord? And then I started to speak about, I said, what's your name? And I really didn't know. And I started speaking. Can I just say what I see God, how I see God looking at you with such favor? And I did it. And I left, did it for about 30 minutes. I came back. He's still sitting on the bench. I'd left my something in there, my notebook. And here he is just thinking about it, pondering it. And in the natural, I think he's the guy I'm against the most, the way he was acting. But no, he wasn't. He was a real father, and he was good. Like, Brian, you're a father, and you're good, and you're going to do this. To a lot of these ones that seem like big leaders, big nation, this and that, just one drop of God in reality, this changes everything. So you just be surprised, the ones that are even going to be on these calls and where they come from and how different ones of you will write to them. You just see their name, and the Lord will have you write something special. There's been a number of old fraternity brothers, other people that have saw my name and listened in, and they have places in this society that are places for good and places that are not for so good. And God will give you wisdom, you guys. Thank you, Simeon. That means a lot to me. I love you guys. I appreciate you listening so long. Okay, we're in the Hope Room in the Yellow House. I'm going to open up about that Yellow House more. It's a journey that we all need to go on. But we're in the Hope Hearing Room, and we're going to hear with hope. And each day is going to be filled with hope. And we never give up on the joy of the Lord. I mean, joy is when you're the sparkle in somebody else's eye. And we are in his eyes. Ask him how he delights in you tonight, how much he enjoys you tonight. Everyone, and I bless Facebook. I bless the people that lead it. And I just ask you for your love and your encouragement for them. They have a tough job for Twitter, for others. And I just ask you that you would help them. I ask that there would be awesome affection for you in Antifa. Lord, that you just come in there and turn it into a place that is noble and people that are noble. And there would be awesome affection for you. You made those hearts. God, one drop of your love will change everybody forever. I ask for the beautiful God to be shown to BLM and that they respond with the beautiful face. I ask you, Lord, for the NBA, that you'd bring the near God, and there be this nearness, this niceness, this kindness, this ability to not be privileged, but to be those that be the marvelous comrades to this country, be the worshiping army of this nation, to be those that stand up for what's good. God, you're giving me names right now, these different groups that I'll proclaim. They're wondrous in their true identity and their benevolent nature, to be benevolent to cities, to make them good, in the proper ways. In Jesus' name, amen. Bless you. I've done enough tonight. Annette, love you. God bless you guys. Thank you so much. Friend, I love divine appointments. Yep, we're going to have them. This is awesome, you guys. Sonia, thank you for everything. Yes, you, Hilmar, come over and help with the yellow house. We'll all be getting together soon at Nanette's house. Okay, God bless you. Bye-bye.